So the aim of my presentation is just to give a general overview of the E3SoHo project, its results and conclusions, and later on we'll have two more presentations from the same project, more focused on specific topics. So E3SoHo project is a project that started on 2010 and was finalized last year in 2013. And its objective, as it's stated here, was to achieve a significant reduction of energy consumption in social housing through an ICT solution which must be replicable and interoperable with commercial standards. The consortium was composed of 11 partners from 6 countries, and it included construction companies, social housing companies, ICT suppliers, energy consultancies, and so on. It is important to highlight that in this consortium we had social housing partners as partners, and FECODAS, which is the Federation of Social Housing Associations of Europe. The pilots of the project were located in Zaragoza, Spain, in Genoa, in Italy, and in Warsaw, Poland. And now I would like to give a quick overview of the work plan that was followed in the project. This is the typical work plan that would be followed in any similar project in social housing, so that is why I am presenting it. First, we started with a study of the requirements of the end users, the requirements from the buildings, and also an analysis of the available ICT solutions available in the market. That is because we wanted to try to pilot ICT solutions available in the market. We are not doing research, but application of available technologies in the market. Based on this study of requirements, we designed an ICT solution, which I will not explain in detail because that will be done in the next presentation. And afterwards, we implemented this design in the 3 pilots. Of course, this installation was followed by a maintenance of the system and a refinement in order to correct any problems that would appear. Afterwards, we made an analysis of the results of the ICT solution. That is, to analyze which energy savings were achieved by the use of the ICT solution by tenants, and also to evaluate what has been the acceptance of the ICT solution by the users. All this process is then used to elaborate a methodology for designing, implementing, and evaluating ICT solutions for energy efficiency. This methodology has been done in common with other ICT PSP projects, and it is intended to help other projects or other initiatives across Europe to replicate the activities that have been done in the project. And of course, all of these activities have been disseminated, and an exploitation plan has been elaborated in order to ensure the uptake of the ICT solutions in the market. So for us, there have been 3 main achievements of the project, which is in first place, the integration of an ICT solution for energy efficiency in social housing, which is economically feasible, which is interoperable with different standards, and consisting basically on a series of devices for measurement of consumption and user interfaces for the end users, including the tenants and also the building managers. The second result would be the demonstration that with these solutions we can achieve significant energy savings. Tenants have been really engaged with the use of these ICT tools. So, for instance, 2/3 of the dwellings in the Zaragoza and Warsaw pilot have decreased their consumption during the project, and the ICT solution has been used at least by 50% of the tenants, as reported by themselves. Also, 1/3 of the tenants self-reported that during this experience of the E3SoHo, they have changed their energy use habits in some way or another. And the third result, as I mentioned before, is the global methodology for design, implementation, and monitoring, which for us is really a key result because it can help other projects and initiatives to replicate our results. This methodology also includes a training program for social housing tenants and guidelines for replicating the installation in any other pilot. Now we will give a quick overview of how we have evaluated the energy savings. As I mentioned before, the methodology for design, implementation, and monitoring have been done in common with other ICT PSP projects. And there has been a tool, the eMeasure tool, which has been designed by one of the companies participating in another ICT PSP project, which has been used for evaluating or calculating the energy savings achieved. So this is also very important that all projects have measured the energy savings following the same methodology, and therefore the results are comparable with each other. In the case of the E3SoHo, we have followed two different options for calculating the savings, depending on the pilot. For the Zaragoza and Warsaw pilots, what we did was to first have a period for elaborating a baseline consumption, during which period the tenants did not use the ICT solution. After this period, we have 1 year of monitoring period, during which the tenants use the ICT solution, and we compare this monitoring period with the baseline period. Another approach was followed in the Genoa pilot. We used a control group that did not use the ICT solution, and a monitoring group which had the ICT solution installed. And we compared both groups during the same period. It is also important that we did not only evaluate the savings that were achieved globally in each pilot, but also we wanted to evaluate what the evolution of individual behaviors was. So also our study of energy savings has focused a lot on studying the different, the individual evolution of consumption of each tenant, not of the building as a whole. So here in this slide, you can see a summary of the energy savings achieved in each pilot. They have been lower than the initial objectives that we have set for this project. But anyway, we think that with these figures, it is possible to have successful business cases and have an acceptable return on the investment period for amortizing the solution. So, for instance, in Zaragoza pilot site, we have almost 7% of global savings, most of which were achieved in heating. You can see that we have 6% of heating savings, and applying the correction of heating degree days, which is an accepted method, we had 10% savings comparing the monitoring period with the baseline period. For domestic hot water, we did not have savings. This is something that we must work more in order to not repeat the same mistake in other projects. And in electricity, we also achieved a significant saving of 7.85%. In the Warsaw pilot site, we also have similar savings in heating. We did not save in hot water, so it happened the same as in Zaragoza. And for electricity, we have a modest energy saving of almost 2%. So globally, also in Warsaw pilot site, we saved energy. In the case of Genoa, as I mentioned, we used the control group methodology, and the conclusions were that this methodology did not work properly because the dwellings from the control group were not comparable with the ones from the monitoring group. So for the future, we have also extracted conclusions of how this methodology should be applied in order to be valid. In parallel with the evaluation of energy savings, we also evaluate the acceptance of the ICT solution by the end users. And by end users, we mean not only the tenants, but also other stakeholders involved in this project, which are, for instance, the building owners. That can be the city's staff or social housing companies, the technical staff in charge of installing the ICT solution, and other companies that may be in charge of managing the building. So basically, with this user acceptance evaluation, which was done mainly through questionnaires and focus groups and training sessions, we evaluated what the changes of behavior were before and after the E3SoHo project, and how the tenants self-assessed the energy savings that they have achieved during the project. We also assessed how the ICT solution was received by the tenants and what the user experience was. That is, did they use it frequently? Did they like the user interface? Did they have any difficulties or technical problems, and how they deal with them? And of course, as I mentioned, we also got the feedback from the building owners and managers, as the ICT solution also target this stakeholder with appropriate or individual user interfaces for managing the whole building. Finally, I would like to make a quick overview of the work that we have done regarding exploitation. We have analyzed all the exploitable products and services that can be originated from the E3SoHo project. So in the core of these services, we would have the ICT solution or the ICT infrastructure consisting of the devices for measuring consumption and also all the infrastructure needed for collecting data and analyzing data. On top of this, we would build the tenant services, which would consist on one side on the user interfaces for checking consumptions and receiving smart advices, and also training services for guiding the tenants in order to help them to achieve their savings. On top of these tenant services, we would have the building manager services, which would consist also on dedicated user interfaces and other services that would help them to set their targets for cutting energy costs at building level. Then we will have all the services consisting of designing a project for a specific building, supplying the material, installing the system, commissioning, and maintenance throughout a determined period. And the services a building or giving other additional services such as the training that I mentioned before. Lastly, I would like to introduce some kind of business models that we think that could be feasible for exploiting the ICT solution that we had in E3SoHo. The first one would consist on the direct ownership of the ICT solution by each tenant. So the tenant buys the ICT solution directly from an ICT provider and gets the savings and energy bill. Secondly, we have the model of the energy supplier ownership, that is an electric utility, for instance, sells the ICT solution to the tenant by charging it with installments in the energy bill. So the tenant pays the ICT solution periodically, and as a benefit, they get energy savings, and therefore they reduce their energy bills. A third model would be the ESCO ownership, which is similar to the energy supplier ownership. The only difference is that between the tenant and the energy supplier, we have the ESCO. So the ESCO is the one who buys the energy to the utility and sells it to the tenant, and also sells the energy solution to the tenant by applying a small tariff periodically in the monthly energy bill. Lastly, we will have the EPC model, which is probably the most complicated one to apply and would need a large group of tenants coordinated by an ESCO or a social housing provider. And the ICT solution could be financed directly by the energy savings that are really achieved in the building. So this model is the one with highest risk, because the ICT solution provider would get the benefit of could refund the cost of the ICT solution through the savings achieved. So I hope that with this presentation you have now a general overview of the project. I will give now the turn to Andrea Carreiro from ISA. ISA is a Portuguese company, partner of E3SoHo, which provided the ICT solution that was piloted in the 3 pilots of the project. And she will also give perspectives for the technology that is available for energy efficiency in social housing. So, Andrea.